to buy. What was the impetus for that?
Well, Joe, for the past year, we've been pretty cautious on Facebook. Our view was the revenues were going to decelerate, costs were going to rise, government was going to get more activist, and there was no third act. And over the year, we've seen kind of all these worries that we had, except for the government regulation, die away. And then our view on regulation was that the antitrust push you're hearing, we don't think, we're not lawyers, but we've done work on this, we don't think antitrust is going to be the winning argument here in terms of breaking these guys up. Issues on political advertising and maybe fake news, but antitrust to us is like a jump too far. So when these stocks sold off last week, we're like, look, this is a chance to look at the stock and come back to it and say, look, it's oversold on that fear.
You know, just on the regulatory concerns, yep. I would have agreed with you before I heard Macon Delrahim speaking yesterday, yeah. When he laid out all of these existing rules in antitrust that he thinks can be applied going back to Standard Oil. And it sounds like he could potentially be laying out the case for a very aggressive treatment with all of these big companies.
I agree with you. We read that speech. We read, criticism or reviews of the speech. And like, yes, he is saying that he has the ability to do this. It's more than just looking at low prices, right?
Or consumers being harmed.
Right. The question is, do the courts see it that way, right? And the question is, did Facebook get the advantage because they had network effects that were better? Right? Did they win because they were better? Or did they do something that was anti-competitive, right?
Like buy up a competitor like, Instagram?
Right. But by the way, Instagram was only made to be a better company because it's owned by Facebook. Look at Twitter, look at Snapchat, right? They've not grown nearly as much. So the question is, if they didn't buy Instagram,
would it be worth $100
million? Would it be
Snapchat,
right? And so this to me is not clear cut. And I thought, I'm much more concerned about other types of regulation.
I mean, he got in court with AT&T, Time Warner. He just got, they laughed almost out loud at his arguments, right? I mean, so this isn't a guy that suddenly you just say, wow, that's really
right.
Makes a lot of sense. It's very compelling. I mean, he was just dead wrong.
And then, Joe, going back to last...
Yeah, but even if he's wrong,
still do
if
it.
you tie him up for years, how much does he slow down that deal from happening? How much does that make Facebook take their eye off the ball with something?
But the antitrust thing, I don't... you better rewrite antitrust law, because as it's written now, it doesn't apply.
So last year, we had a really geeky day of regulatory conversations with lawyers. And the point was that the judiciary system of America has embraced this view of Borkian law. It's price competition. So what he laid out in that speech yesterday, I think, is correct. The question is, can we take that, to Joe's point, the natural assumption that the courts will see it the same way?
Even if it's not antitrust, even if they're not broken up, you have Congress going after them. You have the state's attorney general trying to pretend, state's attorneys general, I should say, trying to prevent some of these additional deals from going through. You've got much more. Basically, big is bad is the message coming from government.
I know. And tell you what, we were on that. So we downgraded the stock last year. Big is bad was like, look, this stock is in purgatory. But the fundamentals have just gotten better. And the messaging and commerce story is getting better, too. So our feeling was, now everyone sees what we see, which is regulatory is a problem. Right. But big is bad is necessarily not an argument in court, right? Is big bad because they got big because they were better, right? Like, I remember I covered MySpace, which was owned by Fox. MySpace was bigger than Facebook, and MySpace doesn't exist today, right?
I mean, I understand the privacy stuff. I understand the political stuff. But I don't. I do like citing, that Star Trek reference was great. The Borkian law. Do you remember that one? Yeah. I mean, it was the Bork collective that all were.
Borg. This is Bork.
That's different.
Robert Bork.
Yeah, that's something different.
Yeah, and Bjorn Borg.
Bjorn. Yeah, exactly.
The Borkian
It's his
law.
birthday last week, I think.
Yeah, happy birthday.
I knew that. I knew that.
Aquaman?
I knew that.
Aquaman?
No, I did.